This is Unleash. Are you listening? Can you hear me? This is Unleash. Are you listening? Can you hear me?
With your host, Brandon Tierney.
This is Unleash. Are you listening? Can you hear me?
What's going on, everybody? BT Unleashed on this Monday. What is up? Huh? Wow, what an amazing game. Yay, that was absolutely fantastic. You know, it's very easy, all right? It's very easy to be a negative sports fan. It is. And I don't mean just about football, but you think about like the way we talk about sports these days, right? And not all of the conversations, but a lot of the conversations really focus on things that bother us, right? Like when we talk about the NBA, and by the way, Knicks looked really good. I'll do a little bit on that. Alvarado, good, nice little debut there for the Knicks. He looked great. Good win. After getting whacked again by the Pistons, Knicks actually showed some spunk. So I enjoyed that. But like the NBA conversation is largely nobody plays any defense. Everybody takes a million threes. You've got maintenance days. The players run the league. Like, you know, we're all tired. No, I shouldn't say we're all. Many of us are kind of fatigued with LeBron, right? There's a lot of complaints about the NBA. Now, the NBA is not alone. I think the NBA might have it as bad as any of the sports out there. The NBA gets hit a lot, and a lot of it's justified. And a lot of it is a little bit, you know, laying it on a little bit thick because people just enjoy complaining. But even with baseball, right? A million strikeouts, analytics have taken over. God forbid you let somebody go, 109 pitches and try to wiggle out of a jam. You know, like all these problems with sports, I at least thought that we had the Super Bowl where we can sit back and we can enjoy it. And I got to tell you, now I understand the circumstances of the game. I mean, Darnold was missing throws. Drake May was running for his life, sacked 6 times, shut out in the first half. And I'll get to the Bad Bunny halftime show as well. But I'm sitting there watching the game, and I'm just bored out of my mind. And I know that I'm not alone. I mean, I was talking to J-Rod about this before the show. Everything about the game, and it's gotten more and more like this as time's gone on, or as we've gotten deeper and deeper and deeper into, the not only just the globalization of the Super Bowl, but like the presentations really, truly change. But yesterday felt so much more corporate. It really did. Like you're sitting there and you're watching the game, and outside of the Jennifer Aniston commercial, the Dunkin' Donuts listen, Jennifer Aniston could be in Super Bowl commercials till she's 80, and I myself will enjoy it. All right, because I'm about the same age. So when she's 80, I'll be about 80. So in my mind, she'll still look good, right? That was actually a good commercial, but I don't get incredibly wrapped up in the commercials myself, and I'm not here to denounce them. But yesterday felt different. Everything AI, just shoved down your throat. You got a couple of, like Budweiser was good. Dunkin' Donuts was good. But the whole night, like I hate to say this, and we were at a really good friend's house. So we had great company, great food, couple of beers. Like I had a good time. I could not wait for the game to end. Like I couldn't wait. Because when you have young kids, as we do, and they didn't even really watch the game, which was surprising because, my son plays a lot of sports. His best friend's a big athlete as well. But they were just running around the house playing tag and shooting each other with Nerf guns and doing Lord knows what they were doing. Like they weren't even really into the game. And when you have young kids and you're at somebody else's house, it's going to take a good 15 to 20 minutes to wrangle them up. All right, get your shoes. All right. Where's your jacket? Let's go. All right, we got to go to school tomorrow. So we got home. We were right around the corner, but we got home around 10:45. You look up, it's like 11:20. Kids are still up. So it's one of those nights that to me, and I'm not getting like grumpy as I'm getting older. I think I'm pretty fun. I really do. But honestly, I could take or leave the Super Bowl. It just doesn't do anything for me the way that it used to. Now, maybe I'm a prisoner of the moment, and maybe if that Seattle defense is going up against Patrick Mahomes or an all-time quarterback. Now, to be fair, I was saying on Friday that I don't necessarily need that. I think that we're programmed like zombies, so I don't want to contradict myself. I'm not. But the game was largely awful outside of a little surge in the fourth quarter, got some points, and you still knew that the Patriots were going to come back and win the game. And one of the things I was really talking about on Friday was it's amazing how this incessant need to just shove these stories down our throat, like, I was in my office watching a TV show that a highly successful one, and they're talking about the topic was this is Friday, the day before the Super Bowl. I understand that you've got to create some content here. Trust me, I know. But the conversation was if Sam Darnold wins the Super Bowl, is Sam Darnold elite? Like, on what planet is Sam Darnold elite? He's not. He's never going to be elite. He's an amazing story, and I'm really genuinely happy for Sam Darnold. I really am. Like, Sam Darnold had so many chances and so many opportunities to just dump on the Jets. And I mean, whether it was during the regular season, during the playoffs, leading up to the Super Bowl, after the Super Bowl, and the young man just always took the real classy route. And I'm genuinely happy for him. But good God, Sam, I mean, he would have had a 70-yard touchdown early in the game. I forget which receiver that was. He overshot him by 5 yards. He was wide open. You know, he got very lucky in the sense that some balls he threw, a couple squeezed in, and they made receptions on it. But, man, a couple of throws were just, like, really, really inaccurate to the point where if the Patriots were just either a little bit in better position or a little bit luckier, Sam Darnold easily could have had three or four interceptions yesterday, and Drake May was terrified to run. And when he started to run and started to get away from Seattle's defense, which, you know, they talked about this during the game, there's obviously a little, you know, there's a window, the way they play their defense, there's a window to run up the gut and make some plays, and he was just very reluctant to do it. It was just a rough watch. I mean, the whole day, you know, leading up to, I don't watch any of the pregame stuff. I don't care. I mean, the 5, 6, 7 hours of the NFL pregame, what am I going to learn in the NFL pregame show that I don't know? And I love good stories. You know that. I love human interest stories. I love stories about families and journeys and stuff. But even that is overplayed and played out and overkill. Like, just get me to the game. And listen, here's what's happened. Unfortunately, here's what's happened. More and more, year by year, the true football fan, which they've got hook, line, and sinker, they don't care about us. They haven't cared about us for a long time. The real football fan has to suffer through the nonsense that just sucks in the fringe fan. And it's become a very arduous watch. Like, it's almost like work watching the Super Bowl. I don't know. Like, I don't have any other takeaway except that the game was awful, and I really couldn't wait for it to end. I really couldn't. You know, I will say, like, from a technical or from a schematical point of view, it would have been pretty interesting if that Seattle defense, which is great. I mean, that Seattle defense is phenomenal. And Drake May is going to be he almost won the MVP. He's a young stud. He's got a slow heartbeat. He's with a hell of an organization. He's got a great head coach. But like Marino, who got to the Super Bowl as a young pup and never got back, you don't know. So this thought that, wow, you know, Drake May's going to find his way back there, you don't necessarily know that to be the case. So I wouldn't take it for granted, but he just wasn't ready for that. And if that Seattle defense was going up against, again, not that I need a Mahomes or a player like that to, like a Lamar or Josh Allen, but I mean, imagine if you had Josh in the game yesterday. Like, really, imagine if Josh Allen's playing. Like, there was just no juice. And the other thing, too, which was, I mean, I guess I can appreciate it because they weren't gloating and they weren't over the top. But you honestly would have thought that Seattle just won a preseason game. The celebration even was incredibly sedate. So, absolute snooze fest across the board. I don't really know who to blame on that. It's not necessarily anybody's fault. But it was just, again, I don't know how else to describe it. It was a very arduous watch. It went on forever. It was boring. The halftime, and I'll get into the actual halftime in a bit, but that goes on forever. You know, the extra week in between the conference, which I understand logistically, but the extra week, it just zaps you of any football energy that we've conjured up, you know, from the draft into the summer, into September, into October, when teams start to separate themselves. And then obviously November, now you really know who's good and, you know, who's got a chance and who's going to win the awards and what coaches might get fired. Like, all the energy that we put into the football season year by year by year, I am starting to lament the Super Bowl because it's the exact opposite of everything that I've come to love about the NFL. And I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not. There's nobody, unless you're a Seattle fan, and if you are, congrats. You're a champion. Awesome. I mean, I'm jealous, and I respect it. McDonald, great young coach. Defense, phenomenal. Darnold, so happy for Sam Darnold. But the game was an absolute snoozer. Absolute snoozer. All right. Tomadello, 82-39. Pat Stunk shouldn't be there. Super Bowl starts way too late. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say 6:30 is way too late. I don't know about that. There's just too much pregame fluff. That's fair. Just play the damn game. Nobody cares about all the stupid topics that they drag on about. Well, I mean, listen, I appreciate the text there. The one thing that I will say, you can do what I did. You don't have to watch the pregame show. Nobody's forcing you to watch the pregame show. It drones on and on and on. I watched some of the Knicks Celtics yesterday. Like, I woke up and we went to church as a family. And then I came back and I watched some of did a little bit of work here, getting ready for today. Then I watched the Knicks and the Celtics. Then I did a little baseball workout in the basement with my son. And I did a little softball workout in the basement with my daughter. And then, just kind of wasted a little bit of time. I was even at that point. I was actually at one point yesterday waiting to go to our friend's house, right? I was watching some old WWE interviews on YouTube, right? Rather than the pregame show. I just don't care. There's nothing that really interests me in the pregame show. It's so scripted. There's 9 people at a desk. Everybody gets 10 seconds to deliver a soundbite. Like, it's weak. It really is. So I texted as soon as that clock went 000. I tweeted, it's baseball season officially, which it really is. It's baseball season. Like, it's sad because as the years have gone on, again, I'm starting to look at the Super Bowl as just a bridge to get me to what I really like. I love when the season starts, and I love the twists and the turns, and I love the good Sunday night games, and I love the big 425 games. You get Nance, you get Romo, you get Buck, you get Troy. You get all you get fantasy. You throw down some bets. You have some good sandwiches on Sunday. You get the storylines. There's just an energy that is palpable with the NFL that no other sport can recreate. We all know that, right? But then yesterday, like the last X amount of Super Bowls, it's less about the diehard. It's more about the fringe fan. And I just, that's it. I tapped out. I'm going to tap back in when it's time to watch the game. Otherwise, I don't care. I don't care. What's the dude's name? The receiver for the Pats. You see what he wore into the stadium? And he was wearing an out like he was going to jail. He had the shackles on his feet. He was handcuffed, and he had an orange jumpsuit on. Like, what the hell are we doing? What are we doing? Like, it's bad enough I got to watch Kyle Kuzma and the dopiness of the NBA and what some of these guys wear. Kuzma, I think it was last year, had a sweater that was 13 sizes too big, and he thinks it's stylish. I know that I'm getting a little bit older, but I still think that I'm pretty cool. I do. I still think I've got a little bit of style. What some of these young men think is stylish and cool is beyond baffling. It's embarrassing. What? So, not to be negative here and not to be grumpy, but the game was absolute shit. It was awful. I mean, the only intrigue that I had, and I can make a little case for this, honestly, although the way Walker ran, I can't really go. And if Sam maybe would have thrown one more touchdown, Darnold would have won the MVP. But my guy Jason Myers from Marist bangs in 5 field goals, sets a Super Bowl record. And I'm sitting there, my buddy Tim, I'm like, what are the odds in real time on Myers for the MVP? And I think they started at 2,000. So if you throw down $100 and Myers wins the MVP, you get yourself 2,000. And see, the problem was none of them, they weren't like 56-yarders or, swirling winds, fairly benign, 9-10 miles an hour. Pretty, for the most part, chippies. Like and the guy went to my university, and I was rooting for Jason Myers as much as anybody outside of Jason Myers' family. Like, it's the first guy from Marist to get to the Super Bowl. And even, I can't overstate it. Wow, 28-yard field goal, whatever the number is. Oh, my God almighty. Yeah, and again, I'm not coming out here predisposed to being negative or being grumpy. I'm in a good mood. I'm a little tired because it was a bit of a late night. But man, oh man, the Super Bowl has become, in a lot of ways, unwatchable. It really has. At Withdrew, all right. Hey, guys, it sucks to see somebody that once played for you go on to win a championship somewhere else. Let's see. Darnold was never a jerk, never arrogant, always humble, always took the high road. No question. That's why, to me, and it's funny, too, because you talk about the Sam Darnold narrative, right? And this is another thing where so many people have been incredibly lazy as they discuss Sam Darnold. Like, listen, I mean, the Jets write their own jokes. Like, the Jets don't need a writer. If they are the comic, if they're the late night host, they don't need anybody to write the jokes because they just write themselves. I mean, year after year after year, those jokes are written for the New York Jets because they can't get out of their own way. But if you really wanted to be fair to this situation here and really diagnose it accurately, the energy should have been negative, that negative kickback should have been much more directed at the Minnesota Vikings, who won 14 games with Sam, decided to move on from Sam, and didn't make the playoffs. Like, that's the team that could get crushed. What people, and I get it, nobody really cares about the minutia, understood. He was in the building of Carolina, not good enough. He was in the building of San Francisco, not good enough. And I get that. I mean, San Francisco is obviously a first-rate organization, so I'm not going to get on them. But he was in the building for Minnesota. He performed well. He played well. He elevated the team. I'm not saying he was amazing. He didn't throw 47 touchdowns with 9 picks, but I mean, geez, Sam Darnold was pretty damn good a year ago like he was this year. And he didn't turn over the ball once in the entire playoffs, which is something that plagued him a little bit during the regular season. But there's just so many other checkpoints that you really should get on and get to before you just grab the low-hanging fruit and mock the Jets. The Jets are as mockable as anybody out there in professional sports. Again, they write their own jokes, but Sam Darnold's not one of them because, and I was talking about this last night at the Super Bowl party, number one, yes, I was rooting for Sam. Number two, I've got great respect for Sam. I've got great respect for anybody who gets discarded. I don't know how else to frame it. Discarded, right? Basically said, we no longer want you or need you or value you or whatever, or are willing to invest the time to see if you could ultimately become what we thought you were when we drafted you 3rd overall or whatever situation it might be, right? And that person, every single time it comes up, always says the right thing. Like, that's just reflective of somebody who was raised the right way. And those are people that I'm rooting for, whether he played for the Jets or not. I mean, if it could have been some other transient quarterback that was drafted 2nd overall by the Jaguars and bounced around 4 teams, 4 years, I'd feel good for that person. Now it's a little bit more personalized because I watched Sam for a couple of years every Sunday, and it was painful to just see how the Jets failed to properly insulate him, whether it was an O-line, whether it was coaching, whether it was weapons, whatever. But, it's not like he was great. He missed a lot of throws, could have had a 70-yard touchdown in the first quarter. I don't know. I know that there was pressure, and I know that he reestablished himself, and the throw I'm talking about. But, yeah, and you got to connect on that. Like, the great quarterback's going to hit that with his eyes shut. But just the way he manipulated the pocket to extend the play, it was fairly impressive. And Sam has become a slightly above average NFL quarterback. But I'm not going to get on the air here today, that's for damn sure, and have a conversation. Is he elite? What does it mean? It means he won a game yesterday because his defense is phenomenal. And if the defense was not good, like if that was a team, and instead of being the team that they were, if Seattle was a team that was built on offense and the defense was along for the ride and the offense played the way they played yesterday, they would have gotten absolutely trounced. They would have got whacked because Sam didn't play well enough, to put up, I don't mean with defensive points, 30-something points to win the game. And if the defense wasn't as good as it was, you would have needed 30-something points to win the game and it wouldn't have won. So there would be really nothing to dissect here. At Avery Summit, BT, what's going on? Those miserable, jealous Mahomes haters, wouldn't they rather have seen him in this game, or are you, or those who are happy Josh Allen failed again, which I'm not. And listen, they're in my division, and the Bills are I'd like to win a championship, but I'd like to also have some meaningful, fun seasons. and the Bills provide that to the fans. So there's some jealousy there, but there's respect. I respect Josh Allen. And if Josh Allen was playing last night and Josh Allen won a Super Bowl, I'm not saying I'm standing up cheering here, but I would have enjoyed it because from a big narrative perspective, I do think the NFL's better when you've got, great quarterbacks with great stats who get their first one. Now it sets up a much more interesting, meaningful conversation downstream because, no matter what happens the rest of Sam Darnold's career, he's going to be more Jim Plunkett if he wins the second one. Jim, of course, won 2 with the Raiders, but he's never going to be viewed as some great all-time icon just because he has a Super Bowl. So wouldn't he have played better than May and company? He would have, but Avery, I think he would have, but that doesn't matter because the Patriots got there. Like, that's one thing I didn't devote a lot of time to leading up to the Super Bowl. I referenced it about the fairly easy road that the Pats had, but you're a product of what's around you. And if other teams lose or guys get hurt, you've got an opportunity to punch through and get there. Now, the Patriots, to me, are an incredibly stable franchise, but they just don't have a lot of offensive weapons. And they've got a second-year quarterback who finished second in the MVP and an outstanding coach who eventually I do believe is going to win one in Mike Vrabel, who did terrific things in Tennessee. Like, that's obviously a franchise that's going to be around for a long time, just given the youth of both the quarterback and the coach. But I'm not going to get here and penalize the Patriots now contextualizing their road to get to the Super Bowl. That is something that I did do, but I'm not going to sit here today and say, well, if the Bills got there, it would have been a better game, or if the Chiefs. Hey, I watched the Chiefs play a lot of football before Mahomes got hurt. A lot of football this year. They couldn't score a touchdown if you spotted them 6 points. Really, how many Chiefs games? Let's not recreate history here, guys. Recent history. I don't mean with Tyreek Hill and with a young Kelsey and maybe a slightly better Mahomes. The Chiefs were boring this year. So let's at least be consistent to this season. The Chiefs weren't good enough. They had a very benign offense. Every time you watched them, I feel like they had 0 on the board. Like, it was a struggle to score that first touchdown. And very rarely did they put up a large amount of points. Like, that show is fizzled out. It's dissipated. They're no longer like a must-watch. Now, the second part of Mahomes' career will be very interesting. How they build around him and like what's next for Patrick. How's he come back from the ACL, which I suspect will be fine, like Brady did back in the day. But they didn't play well this year. They were a fun team to watch. How many times you bet the Chiefs over this year? Not as much as you used to. There was a point, right, where like it almost didn't matter what the spread was. All right, what are they laying? The 4.5, 6.5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Where are they at? All right, maybe if it got too high, maybe you teased the number down. But, many of us were riding that Kansas City Chiefs, lay the point express for a long time because it was justified, because they had superstars at every position. Their superstars got old. Some left. Mahomes wasn't as good as he was the first couple of years. So I'm not going to sit here and lament not being able to watch Patrick Mahomes. And as much as I respect Josh Allen and really, really like Josh, like everything he represents, old school, accountable, electric player, winner, tough, durable, successful, just a guy that, I don't know how you don't respect Josh. Like, I love the guy. I really do. But I'm also not going to get on the show today and say, it would have been so much better watching Josh Allen. Josh Allen had his chance. Didn't get the job done. Didn't win. Didn't win the game that he was supposed to win. And more importantly, didn't make good decisions. I know there were some calls in that game. I know. I get it. Understood. But there were throws that he made were like, oh, he didn't deserve to be in the Super Bowl. And the Patriots did. You know why? Because they won every game that they had to win to get to the Super Bowl. So it's a mixed bag of everything. Game was boring, but Seattle's defense is incredible. It really, really is. It would have been interesting to me if you had more of a veteran, and I'm not going to say more of a skilled quarterback, because I think Drake May is immensely gifted. He led the NFL in completion percentage this year. I know he was a little bit jacked up with the shoulder. I know Seattle's defense is phenomenal. He's also young. He's confused. He's got, things like Seattle's, they got some of those dudes up front are, forget about the secondary, which is also phenomenal. But my God, Those boys up front are massive. And how about, it's funny, we talk a lot about like Brian Cashman, right? And now Stearns trying to, build the Mets into a championship team, and Leon Rose trying to do the same for the Knicks, right? Well, think about what John Schneider did in Seattle. I think John Schneider's done, I think it's the toughest thing to do in sports. The first toughest thing to do is to build a roster that's not a championship roster, to build it out and to win a championship. That's obviously the toughest because you've got to hit on draft picks. You got to find the coach. You've got to stay healthy. You've got to get a little lucky. Like there's fortune involved. And there's a lot of things that need to happen to win a Super Bowl. I really believe this. I think even more so than like going back to back, or even like in the NBA back to back to back, like say with Durant and Clay and Steph and those guys, or some dynasties. I think the toughest thing to do in all the sports is in the NFL as an executive to win one way, and then years after that, when you hit the reset button with a new head coach, with a new quarterback, with an entirely different roster, to win again. I mean, and that's what John Schneider did. And that's what we're waiting for Cashman to do. We're waiting for him to do that because the Yankees won. He did it in 2009, but the Yankees won a lot with the same guys. It was always Bernie, always Mo, always Jeets, always Pettit, Tino, O'Neill, Posada. You know the names, right? And then when it was time to recreate that, and obviously Jeter was there in 2009, and so was Mo and some others, but once that slammed shut and those guys were aged out and attrition set in and they retired and went to the Hall of Fame, some of them, and this new Yankee model that needed to be recreated, he's not been able to do that. John Schneider has, and I really think that's the toughest thing to do in sports. Like, you could talk about the different levels going from, this is where the Jets are, going from moribund to competitive. That's a big step. Just to go from a train wreck, relatively non-competitive unit, okay, especially without a quarterback, to competitive. Just 7 wins, lose a couple of tight ones, be in the mix, hang around, Thanksgiving, you're not out of it yet. December, first week, you're not out of it yet, even though everybody knows you're not going to win anything, but you just go from a doormat to a competitive, fairly solid, fairly buttoned up team. And now the next step from there is obviously a jump that just many people aren't equipped to make because they're not good enough at their job, right? And that's a massive jump. But what Schneider did, I'm serious, guys, I think that's the hardest jump to make. I really do. And he did it. It's not like say even if he did it with a different coach, but like Russell Wilson was still there and still winning and still very effective, and we could say what you want about Russ now, a little corny, not as good as, the Denver trade was ridiculous. Probably more interested in sitting courtside at the Knicks games than he is being a quarterback at this point, whatever. But when Russ was young, Russ was really good. And that defense was all-time amazing, Legion of Boom, right? And then you had a coach who's terrific. And all that's changed. That is a shrewd mind. That is a forward-thinking mind. That is an executive that isn't good at his job. That is an executive that is great at his job. And then even though they lost yesterday, you want to flip it, look at Robert Kraft, all right? So Belichick's gone. Brady's gone. They went through the lean era, a couple of 4-win seasons back-to-back. He did, now he's an owner, not an executive, obviously. He did what great owners do. And you can love Kraft or dislike him. I'm fairly benign. I think he's really good at his job. And some of the other stuff, whatever. But, it doesn't really bother me enough. So he got pinched at a massage parlor. He's a horny old man. I mean, you shouldn't do it. I get it. Have better discretion. I get it. But, I'm not going to crush the guy. All right, stupid move. You got pinched. Dumb. But he's a really good owner because what he did, unlike the Jets and unlike Woody, he realized with Mayo, this ain't working. And he was able to pivot quickly behind the scenes. This is what happened. Because Vrabel was playing the Jets, he was able to, all right, listen, if I get rid of him, are you coming here? That was a done deal. That wasn't like, let me fire Mayo because he's not that good, and let me see if I can convince Vrabel to come home. No. Talk to Vrabel, talk to his agent. Yes, this is speculation, but this is common sense. This is the way good teams operate. And he made the move. He realized Mayo was over his head. Bang, they're in the Super Bowl. Bang, they won what? 13, I think 14 games. 14 and were they 14 and J-Rob, what were they? 14-3 or I think they were 13-4. Do you know what the Pats were off the top of your head? Whatever they were. They jumped up at least 9 wins, which is absolutely stunning and almost impossible to do in the NFL. And they're going to be good for a long time. So
14-3.
They were. Thank you, Barry. By the way, you recovered. You're a big Pats fan. How you doing today, J-Rod? You okay?
Yeah, just a tough game. I mean, all I can really say this morning is like, just my one reaction to this game was it literally felt like the TV was buffering sometimes. Like this dude was literally just frozen. Like he was in icicles. It was just 10 seconds. You're just watching. Might as well have been a spinning wheel on the TV. But
yo, the spinning wheel. Oh, the old spinning wheel. Yeah, I remember that. Oh, my God.
We're recovering. Wow. We're doing good.
Good.
And we'll be back.
Yeah, you probably will be. I wish I could refute that. Look at this young buck. I mean, we'll be back. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to operate with that comment? And he's not wrong. We'll be back. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you'll be back next year, but pretty good bet that you'll be back soon, if not next year. Trust me, I am well aware of my what apparently, or at least seems to be, my terminal football fate. So, J-Rod, pumping some more of that text there. Got a lot of stuff. I'm not going to do this boring Super Bowl all day. Got a little something on the Yankees. Got a little something on the Knicks. Got a little something here on Friday night, UConn, St. John's. Patino Hurley was insane. So I'm going to be bouncing around. All right, let me get this here real fast. At Freak Athletic 84, Nick smoking them Clover boys yesterday was the best game of the day. Yeah, it was. Too bad they lost by almost 40 the night before in Detroit, which was disgraceful. Like, I'm doing the St. John's game, and I was so into that game that I almost forgot. And you know how big a Knicks guy I am. I almost forgot it was Knicks Pistons. And Madge, who was our engineer, Chris Magikowski, you probably heard that over the years, the immortal one, does the Met games, been a part of radio lore and history and the fabric of New York sports radio culture forever. Where, Mike and Chris are at the Super Bowl, Madge is their engineer. The best. He's number one. And I've worked with Chris forever. And he slips me a note during either a commercial break. No, it was during the game, actually. And he's like, Knicks getting whacked by 38. I'm like, what? Oh, that's right. Knicks Pistons. I was just so into St. John's UConn. Listen, I know that Cat was banged up here, but that's going to be a problem, because the Pistons they look at the Knicks and there's such like an animosity. You saw it last year when they played each other. Such an animosity and such a lack of respect, like, for who the Knicks are. That is a series that, even with Alvarado, and I'm sure they'll get a buyout at some point, that is going to be a white knuckle series that I'm not going to feel good until it's over. And I'm not even sure the Knicks will win. But yeah, Friday was an absolute disaster with that. And then, of course, the St. John's UConn game, which I'll get into more a little bit. I got to say one thing here about Bill Belichick. So who am I to tell anybody like what kind of relationship you should have, or certainly not how to run a relationship, because you don't control another human being. But I mean, Bill, I also understand this, you're 70, and I don't want to be crass here. I'm not that kind of person, but I mean, I got to speak bluntly here. I have to, right? So you're 73 years old, you meet somebody who he believes is, gorgeous. Hudson. I mean, I think she's pretty. I mean, it's not necessarily my style, but whatever. He's old. She's young. He's withered. She's hot in his eyes. All right, fantastic. He's got an old man body. She's got a 24-year-old body. There's a lot of differences. Understood. And I'm not mad at him. She's legal. They have a consenting relationship. Have fun. But Bill, you've got to have more of a backbone. And I'm not using the word control, because you don't control women. I want to be very clear about this. But for you, and I don't even want to use the word allow, because she's not property. She's a human being. But for her to wear the shirt that she wore with Duke and UNC over the weekend, Bill, you got to get your head out of the sand, and you've got to have a little bit more respect for the situation than to be seen with that. And I don't know how you tell her, like, not to wear it. I mean, you ask her nicely. I think that's a starting point. Hey, baby, listen, I know you want to get my back here. And I know that Bill can't stand Kraft. And the shirt that I'm referencing what was it? whatever the name of the massage parlor was? Something.
It was like something day spa.
The day spa, whatever the hell it was, right? She is wearing the T-shirt at the Duke UNC game, linking Robert Kraft's prostitution bust. I mean, Bill, you got to have more class than that, dude. You have to. Again, I understand, not that I could relate to it and not that I ever will, but yeah, I got guy to guy. I do get it. 73, 24. All right, man. I got it. She's got you wrapped around her little finger. Dude, you've got to have more self-respect and you've got to have more class than to sit next to her in public view where it's going to make the rounds on social media with her wearing a shirt about some prostitution bust. You just can't do it, dude. It's classless. I could not believe that. Like, it's one thing, and it even bothers me that he allows her to be such a central figure in their relationship. Like, dude, I'm the coach, okay? And you just parading around like you're the story. You're not the story. I'm the head coach. All right? Remember the interview on 60 Minutes where she was off to the side and she's like, nope, can't ask that question. Nope, not allowed. Dude, what? Where's your backbone, Bill? I mean, where's your gumption? And again, where is your class? You have to nicely say and ask her, because you don't tell humans what to do, but if she's going to wear it, then then I'm not going to the game. I can't be seen with, come on, baby, we're better than that. I know Robert's this and that. You want to diss him? Sure. I know he can't stand Robert Kraft. You want to say whatever you want to say about Robert Kraft to her? Got it. A little pillow talk. You want to say whatever you want to say about Robert Kraft? I got it. You don't like Robert Kraft. But Bill, you gotta rein it in a little bit, dude. It's a pathetic, sad look when you are getting pulled around by a 24-year-old woman and you are almost 75. Like, people are just kind of laughing at you now. Everything about North Carolina football was about her. And then it's just not the classy thing to do. I'm not going to belabor this, and I don't know her. I've got no problem with her. Again, not my type. Even if she was, it doesn't matter. I'm happily married. Hey, you can find somebody for some reason that finds you attractive at 75, whatever. Go knock yourself out, bro. Have fun. As long as it's consenting and she's of age, go get it. Awesome. There's got to be lines, dude. There's got to be lines of demarcation where if they're crossed in a public sphere, you've got to understand it's not a good look. What are you doing, Billy? Come on. Let me see here. At Mike Tam Burley, 1661. What's up, Mike? Hey, BT, did you catch the NBC Sunday Night Baseball ad with Judge, and did it fire you up as much as I did? No, I did not see that. I'm going to have to go look for that one. Yeah, I saw over the weekend, maybe even late last week, obviously, like the photo op with Judge and the captain, and Team USA is absolutely loaded. I'm going to be excited about the WBC. A lot of these things I don't really jump into with too much energy. Like, if it's on, like, I love, like, you get a little DR Puerto Rico, in the years, let's go. Japan, when a player's coming over stateside, I get a chance to see what he's about. Awesome. Obviously, the red, white, and blue going after it, awesome. I think that's great. But I don't know why. I feel like it's because the Jets have always been bad. And the Giants have been unwatchable for the most part. I don't know why. I feel like, and I always can't wait for baseball. I feel like I'm even more excited for baseball this year. That's why last night I tweeted as soon as it went 0-0-0, bang, officially baseball season. And it is. Okay, the halftime show. This to me, it's I understand the polarization of it. Trust me, I'm not an idiot. I do. I understand for some the political undertones. I do. I tell you, I watch politics every night. I don't bombard you with politics because that's not what I do. Even when I go on Fox, which has now been a few times, I'm there talking sports. I was on with Jimmy Fallon, which was great on Friday. He is a trip. He's going to come on the pod as well. Talked about the Super Bowl, talked about the Yankees when I was on with Brian Kilmeade. I was talking about youth sports. Like, that's not my thing. I can very easily sit down and have a glass of wine at dinner and talk politics with anybody. Now, I'm not saying like the 9 layers of policy. I'm not saying that I'm that into it, but I operate with the understanding that this is sports. I'm a sports guy who also has a lot of other interests there, but the majority, if not all of you, follow me, whether it was on the Fan back in the day, 1050 back in the day, certainly BT Unleashed now. You don't follow me for my political for me to espouse politics. I get that. But I also understand that, with Bad Bunny, there was an element of that, at least the thought that there would be. And then, of course, with Turning Point, that's the opposite spectrum. I watched both, and I just don't care about halftime concerts. I just want them to end. Listen, I've told you a million times, I am in my little teen. Well, it's not that little. It's a bit antiquated, but I am in my musical bubble, and I don't apologize to anybody for it. I don't care. Now, it's fairly eclectic, right? If I've got, let me give you an example. So say I'm just what's a fairly decent ride where I'm in the car by myself? A couple of long rides, sometimes with my son for baseball, and he likes my music as well. He likes some other music and that I don't really know, but whatever. Say I'm going up to Providence, St. John's, Providence, right? And it's a good 4.5-hour drive. I'll listen to sports radio for a little bit. Maybe I'll make a couple of phone calls, business, and then I'll listen to radio, like music. I love music. I just don't love today's music. Now, there were a couple of songs like Taylor Swift that my daughter was like going back a couple of years ago. Well, that's a pretty good song. Or like maybe my wife, Katy Perry. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out. It's not a bad beat. I remember when Lady Gaga, Poker Face, Bad Romance. I'm like, yeah, it's a good video. It's a good beat. So it's not like I'm just stuck in like 1970s hard rock. But I don't need music during football. I don't want it. It does nothing for me except annoy me. It really does. I'm saying to myself, when is it over? When is it over? Because it's 6 hours before the game. Not that I watch the pregame stuff, but 6 hours before the game, and I like the commercials, even though there was a lot of AI, which is amazing, but also terrifying in the same breath. But there were a couple of good ones that genuinely laughed out loud. I like the ones that kind of pull at the heartstrings a bit. But and some people love it, and I'm not here to tell you what to like. Like I'm not going to force what I like down your throat. I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to tell you what you like is not good. It's what you like. It's subjective. But if I was 20 or 23 and I'm at a club, I still don't think I like Bad Bunny's music. Just wouldn't do anything for me. Now, I'm not going to shit all over it. I just don't like it, because this goes into my little radio and musical capsule as I'm driving up to Providence, the Rhode Island drive. And I have a little Billy Joel. I'm going to drop into some 90s gangster rap. Dre and Emmett, obviously Dre and Snoop, right? I'm going to go to little Guns N' Roses. I'm going to do a little Rolling Stones. I'm going to do a little Eminem. I'm going to be all over the map. I might do a little Michael Jackson. Def Leppard. It is varied. I've got a very eclectic musical taste. But even if my favorite artist was on the stage last night, I'm just not moved by it. And I like going to concerts. I've been to some amazing concerts. Listen, I know it's not going away. So I'm not going to go on some riff, like a 5-minute riff job on why you should do away with music. I understand what it's for. It's to suck in the average fan. It's to make money. They don't care about me. I've been watching the NFL since the early 80s, and I'll watch it to the day I die. Less and less enjoyment, quite frankly, because the game's not the same and for some of the things that bother me. But they got me, and they got you for the most part. And I think that it's a spectacle. And I think if you can just understand that it's a spectacle, you're not going to get so worked up over what is in front of you that it's going to become divisive. Now, and I thought it was fairly apolitical. There were a couple of references that if you get, right? And if you don't, I'm not going to say, well, like you either get it or you didn't, you either got it or you didn't, right? And I did. But as long as it's fairly apolitical and like you're not sitting there and you actually feel either side attacked or ignored or marginalized, I got no problem with it. I just don't like the music. I don't. I mean, like any other blue-blooded American, I don't mind seeing 100 girls dancing in the outfits. It's not bad. I don't mind. But I don't even need that. Like, I really don't. Like, oh, wow, look how amazing great, wow. First time you ever see a woman dancing? The whole thing is just so much, and it's been so hot, and it takes forever. It just let's wheel out the stage. All right, let's do, I don't know how long, 13 minutes, whatever it was. Let's take the set out. Come on. Before you know it, you forget what the hell happened in the first half. And it's just incredibly uninteresting to me. And that includes if it's my favorite artist. Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple like I thought Prince was great. Yeah, I thought a couple of years ago when you had Snoop and Dre and Eminem, that was really good. You know, Aerosmith, but I don't need it. I don't even really want it. But I'm not going to dump all over it. I'm not. I watched both. I just kind of wanted the game to continue because the quicker the game continued, the quicker the game would end. And I was bored out of my mind. Like I couldn't wait for the game to end. And I'm just sitting there saying, the more this drags out on the field with some monstrosity of a production, which was pretty wild, by the way. I mean, the way they do this these days is pretty impressive. But it's just not for me. It's not for me. And it's never going to be for me. And that's fine. But then you see some of the tweets. Just, good God, the way it gets so divisive. Everybody parachutes in. You know, if you're on the right, you're denouncing it. If you're on the left, you're lifting it up and then shitting on the right. And there's an element of toxicity, all right, that I really don't think should be present on Super Bowl Sunday. I really don't. Now, generally, I was at a small Super Bowl party, very dear friends, and it was awesome, right? But if you're at a big Super Bowl party with, say, 20, and this is fairly common, I've been to these before, 20, 30, 40 people, right? You're going to get a very split feel. And invariably, what's going to happen, just last night, Bad Bunny's going to wrap up, and then somebody who's got one or too many drinks in them is going to say something, either pro Bunny or pro whatever. And then somebody else in the room is going to say, whoa, hold on now. Who also has one or too many drinks in them? And then it's everything but football. That's the point. And that's what bothers me about the NFL. They don't care about you at all. Not one iota. They haven't cared about not just you, us. They have not cared about us for so long. And they never will. Like, you cross that bridge, you're not going to go backwards. Like, think about this, right? I'm not saying I need this either. This is pretty boring. I think it was this morning when I dropped the kids off at school and I came back. I was getting ready for the show. And I saw something on social media, like a clip of about 5 or 6 halftime shows from the early days, right? Horrendous. Girls in hula hoops. I saw some dude in like a, what's that thing called? Like like a toboggan or some sort of, like, yeah, I guess kind of go up in a circle and somehow he didn't fall and thankfully didn't get hurt. I saw some dude playing with a lion at midfield. I don't know, man. I don't need that stuff. I don't. So the way I try to live my life, they need to get a stand-up comedian for the halftime show at JKBK1313. That'll never happen, but and I wouldn't even want that. That's almost too slow. Even if he's just, now you want to get Dice up there. I might be down for a little Dice. No, you're never going to get a comedian. I'm not here to denounce it. I'm not. I'm not going to be that guy who just takes a hammer and crushes something that I don't like. So I don't like the music. It's not, I don't know any of the music. I don't know any of it. And I think that, don't get me wrong, the beat's fast and like the dancing's amazing. And I understand the global appeal. I get it. I do. But I am the kind of person, and J-Rod, I don't know if you're like this. You actually have a musical background. I'm the kind of person, if I can't sing a song, I'm just not into it. Now, there's some songs like again, I mentioned like Taylor Swift, my daughter, or years ago, Katy Perry, I don't know, Lady Gaga. I don't know why those are the three that come to mind. But like, I don't know all the words there, but if I'm the kind of dude, I gotta be able to sing the song. Like, that's how I feel music.
No,
I don't know any of Bunny's songs.
Listen, I've heard a couple of his songs at some parties, but yeah, it's like I thought it was a good halftime show. I thought it was shot pretty well. I thought the cinematography was cool. I thought it was fun. Gaga moment was good, but yeah, I mean, there is certainly that element. I feel like of when you're watching, where you're like, okay, like this doesn't, necessarily relate to me exactly.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. I get it to an extent. I do.
But yeah, I mean, in totality, I think I'm in a pretty strong agreement with you on just we don't need the halftime show in general. It's just it's a bunch of hullabaloo that in this case did just turn into kind of like a divisive mess, which almost probably brought more viewers to it than maybe it would have otherwise.
Well, one of the highest rated, one of the
highest
watched Super Bowl shows. One of the highest watched Super Bowl shows of all time. Yeah.
So it probably worked out in that sort of, area. But again, like I think, like you put it, it's just a show. Doesn't need to be some crazy thing. It's just kind of trying to just get the average viewer to watch.
Well, this is where I find really interesting, because J-Rod is obviously a young buck. He's up and coming here. He's a young man. And, so if they're not appealing to you, now I don't know that your opinion reflects all, I mean, obviously not all, but a vast majority of the people your age. You guys also grew up very differently than I did. I didn't grow up with the spectacle at halftime, and your generation for the most part has. So there's an expectation that it's going to be there. So I know you were at a smaller party, but people your age, both men and women, young men and women, are they looking for this? Like, are they excited? Maybe they are.
I mean, I guess obviously it depends on the year. Like, I certainly remember, last year, like with Kendrick Lamar, like all my friends and I were, pretty excited for it. This year is just kind of people were like, hey, I like that. I enjoyed it. And that's the thing. But no one's clamoring for the halftime show going, oh my God, I can't wait.
Well, but did they in years past here? Because I thought a lot of people were clamoring for Bunny yesterday. I mean, people were incredibly fired up. Not everybody, a lot of people were.
I guess in my circles, potentially not, but certainly on like a global scale. I think that's definitely what this sort of show attracted. I think was like a greater global audience.
Okay, there you go. Listen, I said thank you, J-Rod. I said get a couple of texts up there if you can. Especially something about the halftime show if you find something interesting. I said the other day, and I said this 10 years ago with Tiki, and they haven't done it yet, like to this extent. I said, I think if you're going to really do this, now timing would be a massive restraint. I understood. Logistics would be a little bit tricky. But to me, why not just have 4 different acts basically take the pylon in each end zone and then push it out a little bit, and you've got one set, and you have representing each or as many different genres of music as possible. You want to have like an old school act. You want to do, an old school rock, a rap. You want to do like an R&B. You want to do whatever it might be. That's fine. I don't know what I would do. This is going to be the ultimate barometer, because when this happens, I'll probably put my head through the screen. If and when the Jets ever get to the Super Bowl, and I've got to say, and it's not even about last night's, or I'm just in general. I just don't have any interest for it, ever. I joke around when the halftime show comes on. That's generally when I walk outside or I walk downstairs or I kind of remove myself to start checking, second half lines, like, where's the money going? What am I going to bet? I didn't do that last night, but that's generally what I do when everybody else or some other people are watching the screen, getting ready for the music. I'm going to wander away. I'm going to bring a beer with me, and I'm going to say, all right, where's the money going? Am I going to lay some points, take some points? What's the prop? Like, go to the bathroom. That's my halftime energy. Get a little something else to eat. I think that it's almost, it really is disheartening. And I think some of it is very misplaced. I think some of it's on point. It's both ways. I just think it's disheartening to me to have something that should be such in general, a feel-good moment create like some sort of divisiveness whether that is manufactured, misplaced divisiveness, which in a lot of cases in our world today, it is. So I think that's part of my pushback too. But I just I don't need music with football. You want to call me old? You want to call me whatever you want. Don't need it. Hey, BT, question. They had Eli come out with all those legendary Super Bowl players, and he's the only one who's not in the Hall of Fame. Straight blasphemy, in my opinion. Brad, I didn't see Eli out there. You talking about when they introduced the guys that got into the Hall of Fame? Roger Craig, Drew Brees, those guys? I didn't see it this is the other thing. Well, go ahead.
Kind of when they were coming out of the trailer in the intro, like it was like Joe Montana, Brady, Peyton came out, a few other guys before him.
What the hell was Eli doing there? Was Eli really there? That's what
he was there. He came out right
there?
Before Peyton. It was just like they were introducing a bunch of legends. I don't know if it was people who won a certain award, but it was like a little trailer, and it was just a bunch of shots of quarterbacks. Joe Montana was the last guy to walk out.
All right, as he should be, obviously, even though he played a candlestick. This stadium is about 40 miles away. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I didn't see that because I was probably loading up my food, my plate for the third time. Didn't see it. He's not a Hall of Famer yet. He shouldn't be a Hall of Famer yet. I'm not going to go nuts if he was part of that trailer, part of that package. I mean, I would have thought that it would have been reserved for the true, like you want to have Peyton, you want to, Brady, you want Peyton, Brady, you want to have a Marino. I don't know, whatever. That stuff. I try to remain fairly balanced with that. I'm at the point. I'm trying not to let little things bother me anymore. Just understanding that guys, here's the simple premise. It's there for you if you want it. And if you don't want it, there's something else for you. Like if you don't want to watch 6 hours of pregame show, watch the Knicks and the Celtics. Read a book. Go get the car washed. Something else I did yesterday after the Knicks game while I was kind of wasting some time. There's other things to do. You don't like Bad Bunny? Put on Turning Point. You don't like Turning Point? Keep on Bad Bunny. You don't like music? I don't know. Go do something else. But like to just rail incessantly, I think it kind of misses the mark. But I do think that it speaks to a lot of the pent-up anger and rage that a lot of people have and how divided a lot of people have become. And it's sad. I mean, it's sad in general. And it's certainly, you don't want that on a day when you're going to have 20, 30 people watching the game together. And guess what? I don't know the exact amount, but I can promise you, if you have 20, 30 people in the same room, I'm sure they're not all left or all right or all Turning Point or all Bad Bunny. I can promise you that. You're going to have a mix, and then you get the mix, and you get a couple of drinks, and you get one comment, and it could ruin the day. And I'm certainly not there to talk politics or get into an argument, which I wouldn't do anyway, because I just don't care enough. If you believe what you believe, I respect that. And hopefully you share that same feeling. If what I espouse is different from what you do, hopefully you can respect that. And if you can't, well, I probably can't be around you because I'm going to show you that respect. And if that's not reciprocated, then I've got no interest being in your presence. That's just the way I operate at this point. At Inside the MLB, I've already forgotten the Super Bowl. It's baseball season, baby. It is. I got a little something for baseball. Good segue here. All right. I'm not going to go nuts on this, but let me at least lay it out how I think it should be laid out. Now, over the weekend, and it's funny because Cashman said, oh, we're not running it back. And here's Goldschmidt back on a one-year deal. I do think this speaks to how a lot of people are wired to just be combative and to just go for the throat and go for the kill and go for the text and go for the tweet and just drop a barrage of disses, right? If you really have a problem with Paul Goldschmidt being re-signed by the Yankees, I don't know what to tell you. Well, I do. You don't know baseball because I think you're missing the mark at that point. I'm not saying there aren't other things to complain about. How much do you think Paul Goldschmidt's going to actually play? I'm going to give you my prediction. Of course, I've done the research. I've got an opinion for you. I've got a take. But understand this, please. Last year he came here and he got 1 year, $12 million. Okay. I thought it was worth it. There were a few other first basemen. Are they going to get Vladdy before Vladdy signed the extension? A couple others as well. I didn't go nuts. Wow, what a move, because I knew he wasn't the same guy. But the way he finished up the year before in St. Louis, second half numbers, there was some evidence that maybe still a little juice in his bat. Good fielder, good pro, good clubhouse guy. 1 year, $12 million for the Yankees or a big market team is nothing. All right. And really, we didn't really know exactly what Ben Rice was at that point. I don't know that we still fully know, although you know what I think. I think he's going to be a star. But, he's still got to become a star before he actually becomes a star. Anyway, why does it bother you so much that Goldschmidt's back for 1 year on $4 million? How much do you think he's going to play? Like, what are you expecting from Goldschmidt? Well, here's what you should expect, all right? So, last year, Goldschmidt had 489 at-bats. Ben Rice had 467. I mean, think about that. So you're talking about basically 20 apart. Goldie, 489, 467 for Rice. There is no chance that that's going to be quite as close to 0.0%. And the strange thing is you dive a little bit deeper into the numbers when you look at the splits here. Of the 489 at-bats for Goldschmidt a year ago, 340 were against right-handed pitchers. That's not happening this year. He's not playing against righties because he didn't play last year against righties as the year progressed. So any energy, any discontent, any regurgitation of, and I'm with you on some of the stuff, I get it, just pounded on Cashman this, Cashman that. This is not something to get too worked up over, guys. It's really not. He's making $4 million. Rosario signed for $2 million. He's going to play twice a week. It's what Goldschmidt's going to do. So the other thing, too, is let me hit you with some actual numbers. Each month last year, literally each month, I went back and I looked at it, the at-bats decreased each month, meaning he became less and less viable in the eyes of the Yankees and less relied upon by the Yankees as Ben Rice started to flex and start to distinguish themselves a bit on the major league level. So in April, Goldschmidt had 106 at-bats. Pretty decent amount, because if you do that over the course of 6 months, you're going to have over 600 at-bats, 636 to be exact, and that's a lot of at-bats, which you won't even sniff this year because they didn't sniff it last year. Anyway, April, 106, May, 92, June, 84, July, 75, August, 67, September, 54. All right, so he started in April with over 100, and his last month as a Yankee in September, he had half that. And that's what's going to happen this year. So why am I going to waste my time? Why? I'm fine with it, guy. He's a great clubhouse guy. He's still a terrific fielder. He's reliable. He's going to be a pinch hitter. He'll play once or twice a week against lefties. God forbid if, they don't have many righty bats. So I think anytime you bring a righty is not a bad thing. Now, I wish he had a little more positional versatility. I would like to see the Yankees get a righty bat for the outfield. There's rumblings that they still might. I'm not saying it's perfect, but a guy who is making peanuts in 2026, relative to major league first baseman, he's not going to play that much. You're not counting on him, and everybody loves him and respects him. And for me, when you've got some young players, especially somebody who's trying to figure out how to play first base, I don't know what the problem is, except that many of you like to hear yourselves yell. Honestly, many of you are predisposed to being miserable because you're so hell-bent on just banging those opinions out there about Cashman. Cashman this, Cashman that. And I'll do it as loud and as often as anybody because I have. This is not a situation where I'm going to waste energy. I am always going to be fair to the situation. I'm actually happy Goldschmidt's back. I'm happy that he's back because I understand the way he's going to be utilized here. That's it, So I think some of you see it at D the way I see it, but not many. At D_Rod, Goldies. Yeah, the late inning replacement at first base here. He's going to play once a week. For the money, it's fine. Good veteran help for the other players as well. I totally agree. Absolutely agree with that. Why would you not? So let's say the Yankees are up 3-1, and it's let's say Ben Rice has 3 at-bats, does great, does nothing, whatever. And then he's getting ready to come up, and it's the 8th inning, bottom 8. Yanks are up 2, or Yanks are up 1, whatever it might be. But they're up, high leverage. And the other team has a lefty in. All right, Goldie, swing the bat for Rice, then go play first base, where you're actually a better defender. So what's the problem with that? See, it's just, I think it's been misstated and hijacked. He's not going to steal at bats from Ben Rice. Just understand that, please. At Chris, I want to say Christmas, but Chris Matas, we'll go with that. Chris Matas, 102. Everybody, assuming everybody's healthy, what's the Mets 1 through 9? That's not a bad time to do that. I didn't have that planned, but as you can see, there's a few rules here on BT Unleashed. We could jump around, beholden to nothing. 1 to 9. I'm going to give you 1 to 9 how I would do it. All right. I'm not really sure how they're going to do it. I'm just jotting this down. 1 to, okay. So to me, I think this will obviously happen. Lindor won it short too. Soto, again, what I'm going to do. Soto 2, right field. Bichette 3 at third base. Probably Polanco. We'll put him 4 at first base. Let's see. Simeon's going to be at the. I just want to write down the names. Simeon at the bottom. I got to find a spot for Beatty, Alvarez, Luis Roberts. Oh my! I think I'm missing one. DH. I would say probably what I would do. All right. So we got a switch. We got a righty. Polanco there for. It's not going to be Alvarez. Not going to be Rob. Who am I missing? I think I'm missing somebody important. First base, second base, shortstop, third, Alvarez, DH, Soto, Robert. All right, so I'm just going to work from the bottom up. Let's say Benj. Yeah, I'm going to say Benj is your starting left fielder. I think that will be optimal for the Mets there. You know, he distinguishes himself enough. Obviously, a center fielder by trade. Unlike Dominguez, I'm sure he'll be able to catch the ball in left field. All right, so, and I know they love him. Benj 9 in left field. I think 8 at that point, I'm going to go Simeon at second base. Then I'm going to work to Robert. Yeah, I got it now. I don't know if this is perfect, but I'm going to put this out. Robert in center 7. I could even flip Simeon and Robert, but I'll just do it for now. 6. I mean, if it's a righty, I'm going to go Beatty 5, and I'm going to have him DH, but we all know he's going to be bouncing around a lot. And then in the 6th spot, you got to have somewhere for Alvarez. Now, if Luis Robert is banging, you want to put Robert 6, Alvarez 7. There's a lot of different variations, bottom third, but I'll just do it again quickly as I work my way through it. Number 1, Lindor short. Number 2, Soto, right field, batting third. Bichette playing third. Polanco batting fourth, playing first. Beatty, who I'm a big fan of, I'm giving him every chance to really show early that the second half was for real, which I believe that it is. So Beatty's going to be my DH on opening day. Batting 5th, I'm going to have Alvarez in the 6th spot behind the plate. Robert in center, batting 7th. We'll go Simeon 8 second, and we'll go Benj in left field. Now, batting 9th. A couple of variations here. Let's say Benj hits 091 in spring training, and he's not viewed as viable. Then I think you get a situation where you would have probably. I'm okay giving Beatty a shot in left field. I don't know if I really want him there opening day. But I think it really depends. If Benj doesn't drown, I think they're going to let him run out there. And let's say if it's Beatty, then I'd put Beatty in left field, and then you'd have to find another DH, and there's a couple of variations there, whatever. But I think that's going to be the Mets lineup 1 through 9. That's what I think it's going to be. What is this here? All right. When BT puts on the glasses, breaks out the pen and pad, it's going to be good. It is. I love doing this stuff. I have got a mess. I am a legal pad guy. Now, not like Schmooze. Here's the difference, right? I ordered these on Amazon. I got 1 million legal pads here. It's my old school way to do the show. I got more over there. Now, the difference with me and Schmooze, even though we use the same legal pads, he writes out the whole thing, as you know. All these years, he writes out the whole monologue. He writes a book, which is amazing. I don't do radio that way. I don't do content that way. What I like to do is I like to write out. This works for me. It doesn't work for everybody. I write out a word. Now, don't get me wrong. Like with the Goldschmidt, the at-bats per month, I wanted to have that buttoned up. Obviously, a few stats I'm going to have written down. But when I'm structuring the show, and I would do this on the radio as well, and we'd have a rundown, but myself, I would just write down a word like, and it could be somebody's name, like Alvarado. Like I know I want to get to the Knicks a little bit today. Alvarado and circle it, or Alvarado / defense, circle it, or, Knicks / Piston Celtics. And I know what that's going to trigger. And that works for me, But yeah, when I'm grabbing the pen and the pad and the glasses, I'm either jotting down a lineup or I'm doing some deep dive, and, BT's in the laboratory, which I absolutely love. At Yusuf 92. What's up, man? Diawara is a keeper. Yeah, Mohamed Diawara is playing really, really well. I went to get the car washed, and I heard the first part of the car, some of the game on the radio when he was banging in a bunch of triples. He's becoming a really interesting player, and that's That's something else you're going to have to put on Leon Rose's hit list here. Second-round pick, right? He's got some length, could shoot it, played a lot of minutes. I think he played the most minutes of any reserve yesterday. So that's very encouraging. Now, listen, I think what's going to determine whether or not the Knicks get to and win a championship is going to be the buyout market. That's why Yabusele and being able to do what they did with Alvarado was very important there, because they've still got some wiggle room to get somebody on the buyout market. They got to get a big there. They got to get a big. They just have to. And I don't know who that is. I don't know. You want to tell me, yeah, you could always use another shooter. Sure. OG's a little injury prone. Cat has had some issues, although he's been rebounding the hell out of the ball. Brunson's Brunson. Bridge is going to, play 37 minutes a night. Some nights he'll be really good. Some nights he'll be invisible. But the effort will be there. Alvarado. And that's what I mean. Now, think about the energy that Alvarado brought. Walked into Boston. I know it's not the Celtics, same team without Tatum, but they're a lot better this year than I thought they would be. And the Knicks were coming off being punked again by the Pistons. And Alvarado's out there, and it was just a different energy. It was a different force. Just doing things, just making it uncomfortable for other teams to operate. And I think that's great. I really do. Because Brunson can't do that. You don't want to have Josh Hart and some of these other guards and wings, chasing people around picks and early in the shot clock. Not that you won't ever, but I mean, that's his role. He's going to play 12 to 15 minutes a night. When he hits a couple of threes, because he's not a great shooter, he's okay. But when he hits a couple of threes, it does change the ceiling for the Knicks, because when he's shooting fairly well, obviously you've got to react to that, and it creates a spacing option for the Knicks, which is basic stuff there. But when he's shooting early and and I don't mean, 5 threes, not that kind of player, but just stick 1 or 2 and be willing to shoot a couple. Well, now it opens things up, but now it's going to keep him on the floor, and it's going to keep him even more engaged. Like, I love him. I'm so happy the Knicks got him. I was pumped about this when we talked about it on Friday. New York kid. It's just a phenomenal story. And you saw that injection of energy into the Knicks yesterday. And part of my problem with the Knicks, now this doesn't solve like when you play the Pistons necessarily. They got some boys up in the front court who are not afraid at all of the Knicks. Like they're licking their chops. Like they think they're going to have their way with the Knicks front court. And too often they have, right? So I would still like to see a high energy 4 or 5 with some height and some, resistance. I'm not talking like, a fighter, because those days are over, but just somebody who's just going to bring a little something physically to the front and around the basket. Because, Alvarado's got that on lock 25 feet away from the rim. He is a pain in the ass to play against. What a pest, man. He's got a relentless motor. He's got great anticipation, picking pockets and just, even if he doesn't get the steal, when you just kind of force somebody off their dribble path and you knock it loose, and even if the guy gathers it, you waste 3-4 seconds. You only have 24 to begin with. Now you got to reset the offense. It just keeps other teams out of rhythm. He's an unpredictable defensive force, and he's a great jolt of energy that, quite frankly, the Knicks needed, because they've got too many benign personalities. They do. Mikal Bridges is quiet as a mouse. OG doesn't say a word. I mean, we love Brunson Killer, but doesn't say, yeah, he does that with the fingers, but it doesn't say much. Yeah, they just have a lot of guys who just really don't project any sort of outward energy. So I loved it when they got him. I gave Leon Rose a lot of props. And the first real, look at Alvarado was a Knick. Pretty damn good. Let me see here. Let me get this guy up. All right, yeah. BT Mike Brown has his flaws. Knicks depth may be the best in the league, and that would not have happened with Tom Thibodeau. Got to give credit to Brown where it's due. Let's be real. No, I've definitely done that. And by the way, the other day, that is one of the problems with having 9,000 legal pads. I don't know. I'm not even going to look for it. It would take forever. Because I did do this the other day where I was contrasting the many different numbers. I think it was at least 9 categories of Tom Thibodeau and Mike Brown. And so, like threes attempted a game, free throws attempted a game, defensive efficiency, offensive rating, rebounding. They were basically, and some were minimal and marginal, but it was certainly threes taken from the corner was one that jumped out. Minutes played by the reserves, that's obvious. And, that's why I was open to change here. Now, Mike Brown's never won a championship as a head coach, and he's got a lot to prove. but I thought it was time for the Knicks to change. I said that when the Knicks got bounced a year ago. I said that the next day, and I said it with respect, but I was very clear. There was nothing to interpret. I got on our show last year, said, Knicks got to fire Tom Thibodeau. And I made sure that I softened it because I really do respect what he did, but I made it very clear they had to move on from Tom Thibodeau. He was not evolving. Now, that doesn't mean that man that they brought in is the absolute perfect answer to what they needed, but he's different, and sometimes different could be good. Now, if they get bumped in the first round, it's an absolute disaster. He'll probably get fired, and all of the Tom Thibodeau supporters will come out and want to attack me. That's okay. You know, you got to have an opinion. I stand by it. I think it was time to move on. BT, I think the unifying element of the Super Bowl Sunday is the food and the beverage. What was the best thing you ate yesterday? Mine was homemade sourdough with lump crab dip. Woof, that sounds good. I would have absolutely demolished that. Thank you, Andrew, from Bay Ridge. I had some wings, a lot of conventional stuff. Had some good wings. And I'm not I love wings, but I'm not like a teriyaki wing guy or garlic parmesan. I am a conventional wing guy. Give me some blue cheese. Give me some ranch. Give me naked wings. Very happy with that. So I had some of that. Had some chili. A lot of conventional stuff. Had a little, what was it, prosciutto mozzarella? Was it prosciutto? Yeah, I think it was. Definitely some of that. And I went to town on the desserts. I mean, I don't even know what I was eating at one point. I was just shoveling it in my face. So I feel like an absolute slob today. I was driving the kids to school. I'm like, uh-oh. I feel it hitting me. I better get home. You know what I mean? Like, all that stuff that a couple beers, it catches up with you. Kevin Looney, let's see, is a big, that's probably going to be bought out. Maybe. Yeah, those are options for the Knicks. Yeah, he's a winner. Chris from America, I appreciate that. Been around for a little bit. Looney's fine. Yeah, something like that. I think something like that. I don't think that the Knicks are done, but, it's funny because the emergence of Diawara is fun. It's very fun. Interesting. The Red Sox got Durbin from the Brewers. Yep. Yeah. Saw that. Let me see here. What else? What's the timeline? What else do we have here? As usual, the chat sessions never disappoint. Yeah, you guys do it. I love the chat. And I do this after every show. It's not available right away. I've said this a few times, but after the show, I will, once it's up, and once J-Rod and I get together on, all right, what we want out there for shorts and other, post-production stuff that we have to do, I like to go back. I won't really necessarily watch the show. There might be something where I'm like, I want to double check something. I want to see something. I really enjoy going through the chats there. You guys do a great job. Now, I will say a little light on the likes there. Like, to me, the likes got to get up there. The traction's got to get up there. We've got to get some more of a digital imprint as we close in on 16,000 subs. I'll have that today. And then, again, I'm looking at it right now. It's amazing. I'm looking at this piece of paper. And I'm going to keep doing this until I get to 100,000 subs and I get that nice YouTube plaque. And then I'm going to keep going till I get 500,000. Like, that's how I view this. Like, I view this every single day. I know it's corny. I know it's old. I know it sounds contrived. But it's my new world, and I love it. And I've got no limitations, which makes me, I think, even better and more effective as a communicator. And I'm looking at this sheet of paper right now, and boy, that was fast. I've got the number 100, 1,000, 2,500, 5,000, 10,000, 12,500, 15,000, 17,500, 20,000. And they've all got X's through them except 20. We'll have 16 by the end of today, and they just keep growing. It's not going to happen overnight. I understand that. But I do know, and I'm excited for this, that and if you've been with the show, I know you've heard this a lot, so I won't belabor it, but the BT Unleashed logo is made. It has been printed. It is done. So they're coming it's going to take like hours to install. So they're coming either Thursday or Friday. And I got the text over the weekend. And I don't think I'll wait. Like, part of me is like, all right, just start the new week with it, like, because it's going to be done by the end of this week. But if they do it Thursday, I'm going to roll it out Friday. And if they do it Friday, then I'll obviously roll it out Friday. But I just can't wait. It's gonna look different. It really is. Need a top 10 mug segment from BT. I noticed you guys do say that a lot. I've got a lot of mugs. And I noticed, though, the mug, this is the one I'm teed off. I have one, and there's like, it says like hard work, or there's like all these different I don't even know where I got that from. Perseverance, all these positive expressions. Usually, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, why is that mug leaving a little ring of coffee around either my notes or my desk in my office? Well, and I'm an idiot. It took me. I just thought maybe when I put it down, a little bit kind of fell out of the mug. When I clean it up, like it happens. There's actually barely visible. I got to get rid of it, so I do have to get another mug. Barely visible, little crack where it kind of trickles out. And the idiot that I am, it took me 2 or 3 weeks to figure it out. And I've had the mug for probably 7 or 8 years. So I guess maybe, I don't know, you clean it too much and starts to melt, a little ceramic chip. I don't know what happened, but I know we're going to get BT Unleashed mugs. Somebody asked me about this the other day, about BT Unleashed merch. And that is, again, guys, there are steps that you have to do here. And to be able to sell it, you've got to create, there's something we had to do on the back end. I won't bore you with it. We've created that. Now I've just got to find who I like I had to find a producer, like I had to find somebody to design the back wall. Like I've got to find everybody and everything starting from scratch. I've got to find somebody that I want to align myself with that will make the BT merch. And once that happens, I've got to decide, what do I want to do? J-Rod, let me pull you in for a sec. What do you think? Because I've got my idea outside of, because this is too easy, BT Unleashed mugs, which is a gift. Got to have the mugs.
Yeah.
I think the BT Unleashed vibe is more like the skull caps myself.
Yeah, I think beanie would be great. I mean, great for the Northeast cold winters right there. So
a couple hoodies.
Couple hoodies. Black T-shirt's a must. The black T-shirt, that's like the number one seller in merch business, I guess.
Yeah, I'm a big black T-shirt guy. It's funny. I don't think I ever wore a black T-shirt until in my life, unless like I had a uniform that was like dark. And I have probably 10 to 12 black T-shirts. That's pretty much all I wear. But I've got so many of them. So people who see me, they're like, dude, he's wearing the black T-shirt again. I just love the way it fits. You find a good T-shirt.
Look great.
You're not getting rid of it.
Never switch up on it. Someone also said stickers. That's a great idea. Yes. Toss it on the laptop. I mean,
I like
infinite possibilities. Really.
Yes, there are. You're right, J-Rod. I'm with you on that. Guys, Friday night was absolutely bonkers at the Garden. Oh my God. And I'm very curious where St. John's going to be ranked here today. So it was electric. I've done Lord knows how many games at the Garden there. My first one was 2003, 2004, when Mike Jarvis was the coach. And that was my first year doing St. John's games. And they played Marquette. And it was at the Garden. It was the Coaches versus Cancer Classic, like one of those preseason tournaments. St. John's lost, of course. They weren't very good. And that was the beginning of the swoon. Like the beginning of their swoon was when I started. So you know how meaningful these big games are and these moments are. And there were points, and I remember saying this on the air the other night to Minko. There were points, more times than not, where I would do games at the Garden, St. John's. Now, if it was like a Syracuse or obviously a UConn, talking about the previous configuration of the conference, or like Notre Dame. I'm trying to think some other teams that had some good fan bases that would suck up the tickets. Like if it was against the other program that was down, like Georgetown, I mean, I remember, or like a team that doesn't have a base here in the new Big East, like if they're playing Creighton at the Garden, now it's going to be sold out. Like tonight, Xavier's going to have 17,000, 18,000 people there for St. John's, but there's no Xavier fans coming in because there's not, in terms of a big amount. So it's now dependent upon St. John's to inspire people to sell the tickets just to come watch St. John's, which they're finally doing with the arrival of Rick. But man, there's been so many games I've done where it was depressing. And I remember just walking out of that building so many times, like especially growing up, and this was the one that hurt the most, growing up on St. John's, Georgetown, right? And doing a game and there being like 5,300 people there. And it's just utterly depressing. Like it's the ambiance. It's not even quiet. It's just sad. And I did a lot of those games, so I don't take this stuff for granted. And there's been a lot of electric moments, especially even with Lavin, they had a couple of good teams here and there. You know, when Mullen first got there was a little bit of juice. I'm not saying that there was no juice before Pitino, but This is different. This is what it was like when I was, as a matter of fact, my son's texting me during the game. He had a pitching lesson. So he was going to, he's listening to the game in the car on the radio on 10:50 a.m. And when he got home, he's locked in, and the whole family watched the game. Matter of fact, when I got home from the game, which was like 11:20 or whatever it was, all three of them were knocked out on the couch upstairs. He was wearing his St. John's jersey. They were all asleep. My daughter could really care less. She's not too into the game, but she was there. And he's texting me. And, at one point I said, this is what it was like when I was young. And I've told him that before. Like, this is what it was like when I was young. Just the juice, the feeling. And what's changed now, and this is so amazing, because I didn't even think that this was possible. Like, the Garden really turned into, stores. It was UConn fans just basically come in and take the building over. And I'm not mad at them for doing it. I'm jealous over the years, right? Not anymore. I don't know the exact number. I would have to guess. A few people have asked me this. I felt like it was 80-20, maybe even 85-15 St. John, maybe even 90-10. Like, the top, you had some Husky fans. The whole first two, all red. And it was just, man, number one, the game was phenomenal. It was physical. And, here's one thing that you really, as much as the college game has changed, right? And it's benefited St. John's because now they can buy good players, and it's changed their trajectory, and they're able to pay for Rick. You have that money coming in from Mike Rapoli, and it's just a different world for St. John's. While somebody like Syracuse and other blue bloods they've been penalized with the NIL and the transfer portal. Ironically, it's really what saved St. John's. It really has. And as that's happened, you've got a lot of rosters with no continuity because it changes every year. And the other thing that's happened now, as Boeheim's retired, as Jay Wright stepped away, now you still got Izzo, Mark Few out there with Gonzaga, but a lot of the big coaches are no longer around. So I know the Big East is down this year. I think it's going to be a 3-team bid, maybe 4. Big East is really down. But the thing that other conferences don't really get is that Hurley-Patino dynamic is about as old school as it gets. And that's one of the things that the conference really had when I was becoming a fan. Louis, Rolly Massimino, Boeheim, Jim Calhoun. Oh, my God. John Thompson, of course, the great John Thompson at Georgetown. Patino at Providence, a young Patino. It was just amazing. And they really, there's friction there. I told you this on Friday. They say the right thing. They respect each other, but boy, do they want to beat the shit out of each other. And, not once, not twice, not 3 times in a row. 3, Rick has beaten Hurley. And St. John's is more physical. Now, I don't know what's going to happen when they meet up in stores. And that's on a Wednesday night, which is so weak. I mean, it's like it's Wednesday night, and I think it's on Peacock. And I'm not here to disparage Peacock, but can you put the game on a little bit more of a high-profile moment? Wednesday night, it's just that's got to be a Saturday game. I don't know how. I know that they're beholden to the contracts, FS1, Fox, which was on Friday night, which was great. Got to go and say hi to Gus, who I haven't seen in a while. Love Gus. He's just a great dude. Known him for a long time, back to when I was doing stuff with the Knicks and I was doing the halftime stuff and he was doing the game. So I've really known Gus for a while. And he's still the same Gus. Always a happy smile. Always a big, big dab, big hug. How the kid's doing? Great guy and a great talent. So, and it sounded big too. That's the other thing too. But how do you have UConn and St. John's on a Wednesday night? I think it's at 7 up in stores on Peacock. Like the Big East, I think the Big East needs a new commissioner. I've said that. I think their broadcasting rights are all over. You don't even know what channel they're on. But that's not my problem. I'm focused on St. John's, and it was really, really good. And as I say, he's beaten them 3 straight games. How about this stat? So I think the biggest difference, I think UConn might have a little more skill in terms of shooters. Like the kid Mullins, the freshman. Wow. I mean, he came out. He looked like J.J. Redick at Duke. I mean, bang, bang. I'm like, oh, boy. And they got a couple of pros there, obviously, as does St. John's. But the biggest difference is that St. John's is bigger and stronger and tougher in the front court. And as long as they hit a couple of threes, their massive advantage is getting to the free throw line. St. John's one of the best teams in the country getting to the stripe. Listen to this disadvantage for UConn. So, and UConn's played one more game They play one more game. St. John's has taken 613 free throw attempts so far this year. UConn's taken 444. 613 to 444. And that showed up the other night. I think St. John's took 31. They missed a couple. They got to shoot better than they did, but I think they took 31. I think UConn was right around 12 or 13. Massive disparity in line with those numbers that I just gave you. So, it's going to be very interesting. Yes, and I did see this over the weekend. How about Autry? Locked in his firing, no question. Syracuse is a disaster right now. My God. And Carmelo's son didn't play at all. DNP. Now, I also don't think that Carmelo's son is as good as some people do. Just because you have I think he's interesting, and I know he's had some good games. I've seen him play, but he's an issue on defense, and but I don't know what the hell's going on up there at Syracuse. I just don't know. I do think college basketball is better when Syracuse is viable, and I've done more than a few games at the Carrier Dome, and it's one of the most unique, amazing experiences when Syracuse is good. Just the way the whole arena's, the football stadium's, cut off, the dome is cut in half, and all the fans, and when they're good, they don't sit. I mean,
it's terrible.
They got 30,000 people.
I don't know if we've talked. I'm a Syracuse guy. Literally, the only good season we ever had as a student was that. What was it? 2020 Buddy Boeheim Sweet 16.
Yes, yeah, buddy,
run.
yeah, buddy.
That was it.
That's true.
I mean, which was great, but. And Joe Girard was fine for whatever the rest of the 2 seasons he was there with us.
He was a good player.
But yeah, it's been a disappointment of a program, at least for the past 5-6 years.
I don't know how they're going to really change this. I mean, the only way you change is you're going to have to. It's not like you just got to pay. You got to pay players. That's the bottom line. I don't know what their budget is, but they've got a football budget. And they get, when they stink, they get 20-something thousand at the Dome. So how many games did you go to the Dome there?
Oh, I mean,
you went to every game?
Yeah, pretty much every basketball one, I'd say, men's basketball. Decent amount of the football, less. I mean, I'd say other than that last senior year, junior year, our football team was awful.
I know.
It was Garrett Schrader for most of my college career, Tommy DeVito at the end. So yeah.
Ooh, Tommy boy.
Yes, sir. Pat should have brought him out last night.
I know.
But yeah, a bunch of games at the Dome. I mean, love it.
Did you have a good time at Syracuse? Was it fun?
Yeah, super fun. I mean, great school. I think the party school aspect gets a little overrated, overhyped there. However, still a lot of partying. It's a fun school. I mean, super cold, but great spirit. Everyone there, they really care about the fact that they're at Syracuse.
I agree with that.
Really cool. And
I always got that. I totally agree. I always got that sense. And I think about it, when conference play starts. It's not like you're playing up from St. John's point of view. You never know going up there in November because that's the non-conference. So I would always go up there. I've probably done, if I had to take a guess, I've probably done 8 or 9 games up at the Dome, St. John's, Syracuse.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I've done a lot. Oh yeah. And the with basically all the different coaches, with Jarvis, with Lavin, with Mullen. Yeah, I mean not with Rick there and I'd like to see St. John's and Syracuse play a game at the Guard. I think that would be a lot of, or the Dome, that would be cool. But every time you go up there, it's either January or February, and it's absolutely frigid. And it's because it's so cold, it seems desolate, even though it's not, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever been there once when it's sunny. And it seems almost depressing. I know it's not. It's an amazing school with a great journalistic history and a great basketball history and a lot of culture and a lot of pride. But it just always seems dank. It's always gray.
You got to go from May. Oh, it's a short period. You got May to June, May to September, and then it's very nice. But other than that, it's the most disgusting place on earth.
All right, so let me tell you where I think St. John's going to finish up here today, just because they've got coming out at 1 o'clock here. So about an hour and 20 minutes, you get the new AP poll. So the AP, what does it really mean? AP poll doesn't mean a whole lot. You're better off looking at bracket matrix. Where are they seed-wise? Where's Lenardi got him? Where's Palm got him? Where's the Ken Palm? Where's the net ranking? St. John's moved up. It's amazing. Only 1 or 2 spots in the net ranking here, which is crazy to me when you beat the number 3 team in the country. But when you play this amount of games here, the analytics don't move. It's like having 500 at bats versus 120. Obviously you have a 3-hit game. If it's the latter, 120, average going to jump. If it's September, it might jump up a point. Anyway, they were 22 going into the game. I believe that they will be. I think they'll crack the top 15. I think they're going to be number 15 here. Maybe 16. And, the symbolism of being top 15 versus 16, whatever. They're just moving in the right direction. They've won a ton of games in a row. Basically, every game, maybe with the exception of going up to Stores soon, they will be favored. They've got Xavier tonight. You got to be careful. You let down, you're playing against Rick versus his son. You want to make sure you beat the teams like Marquette. Seton Hall's going to be tough there. Last regular season game at the Rock on, I think that's March 6th. That will not be easy because Shaheen Holloway's going to have his crew ready, and they're tough. And they almost beat St. John's at the Garden. So got respect for the Hall. But, I mean, St. John's is going to probably finish up, what are they, 18-5? They're going to finish up 26, 27 wins, maybe 28. Maybe, depending upon what happens in the Big East tournament here. So I do think that they will be in that realm of 15. 5 top 10 teams lost in the last week or so since the last AP poll came out. St. John's will have a big jump. And listen, I said this going into the game. I thought that St. John's was ridiculously overranked at number 5 coming in. Like, no, really, outside of Zuby, nobody else did anything. So there was no justification in St. John's being number 5. It was Rick and it was Zuby, which are 2 great starting points, don't get me wrong. And it was the 31-win season and the Big East regular season championship and the Big East tournament championship, which really elevated them to number 5. They weren't the 5th best team in the country. They showed that because they lost to teams they shouldn't have, and they didn't beat teams that would have distinguished them even further. So they took some lumps early, then they dropped out, so that they were overranked early. And then, quite frankly, I thought going into this game, I thought they were slightly underranked. Not by a lot, but I thought maybe 1 or 2, 3 slots, maybe instead of 22, maybe 20, maybe 19. Either way, that'll get corrected today. That drops you. I'm curious. And more importantly, where do I think they can wind up as a seed in terms of right now? The momentum is great. Right now, St. John's, and this didn't even move that much. I was surprised at this. So I like to follow, and Bracket Matrix is really good for this. If you just go to Bracket Matrix, you'll see all of the different outlets, and there's like 30 of them. And you'll see all of the teams, 1 through whatever, like the seeds, 1 through 16, obviously. And they'll have like 4 1s, 4 2s, like it's actually the NCAA tournament or Selection Sunday, right? And they'll have, so for St. John's, early on, they were generally thought, and they'll take like a hybrid, an average of everybody, like where they have them, and it will come up with a number. And as I've said, St. John's was rightfully in that 8-9 game for a while. Then they started creeping up. And then as they got further and further away from that bad loss at home to Providence, they started moving into that, the 4th best 6 seed. Now they're in some, either a 5 or one of the best 6. I think that St. John's will wind up either a really good 5, meaning a favorable location geographically and a more favorable matchup of all the 5s, or one of the lower 4s. Now, if they beat UConn up in Stores, I mean, and then you go, there's a lot of ifs here. You go on, and then at that point, you would, in all probability, win the Big East regular season championship again. If you beat UConn 4 times in a row, I don't even know if they'll win up there, but if they do, you'd have to think if you meet them in the tournament, Big East, you got a chance to beat them there as well. I mean, could they make? I don't think they're going to make the 3 line. That's a jump. I don't see that. But I think the momentum is real. I think this team has found out who they are. I think it all coincides with really the way Dylan Mitchell's played and this renewed commitment to the front court. And Johns looks really good. And that place was magical. I could not wait to get to that game. It was an 8:00 game. So I'm sitting there waiting all day. I'm like, come on, I want to go. Let's go. At Omar_Youssef92. Omar, what's going on, brother? How you doing? Are you surprised by how Dennis Jenkins has looked in the NBA? No, I'm actually not. Pistons appear to have found gold there. Yep. I don't know why. I don't know why the Knicks didn't bring him in. Right under your nose. Right under your nose. Dennis Jenkins is a legitimate NBA player, period. And I'm not going to go 3 minutes, 4 minutes on Dennis Jenkins here, but it's a great story. He's a great competitor. Got to know him a little bit. Loved interviewing him. Terrific young man. Awesome person. And he was at Iona with Rick, obviously. And, that's one of the things about player development. That's what Rick is. Now, they're going to also provide money. If you're a big-time player, you're going to get around $1 million. St. John's has an NIL budget. I believe it's right around $10 or $11 million. You got a couple of guys making over $1 million for sure, and they should. That's the name of the game. But you're also going to develop. And Jenkins, a couple of years ago, was viewed as a really good player in the MAC. And then when he came to St. John's, you're like, wow, this guy's incredibly valuable. And then you saw St. John's at points last year before they clicked. You're like, man, they really miss him. And then you saw him early, like in the summer league. And I checked him out in the summer league a little bit with Detroit. Always rooting for him. The two-way contract. And then, oh, wow, he had 15 points in the NBA. Now back to the G League. And then, bang, he has just really asserted himself here. Yep, I think, I won't go nuts here, but I think it's fairly realistic to think that Dennis Jenkins is going to wind up making enough money in the NBA to retire. Retire well with just an ounce of shrewd investment. He's not going to make $100 million. You tell me, he can't make like a contract at some point like Deuce McBride made, 3 years, $13 million when Leon Rose signed him to that a couple of years ago. Not saying they're the same exact type of player, but if you get, that, and he might even get more, you get that 3 year, $17, $18, $19 million. All right, taxes, whack that out, half, got it. Little agent fee, yeah, understood. But if you invest that properly and you're shrewd in how you spend, and you're smart about it, and you just get a decent return, forget about 15% or trying to get in a restaurant or something wacky, which will probably most restaurants don't work out. If you get a decent return and you're smart and sensible, and when I say decent, just 7-8%, you live it off the interest, and you're good. I mean, you're really good. And I think there's a chance he might be able to get more than that. I don't think that is implausible. He is a good player. And I remember saying this before the draft. I'm like, Knicks, draft him. He's got a mid-range game. He's a defensive demon. He's a hell of a teammate. He's been coached up. So I never understood why the Knicks didn't give him a real look there. At B. Klein, now was that BK and BK Leaner? Is that BK? These, I'll tell you, dude. Here's what we got to start doing. At new rule on the show. I can't anymore. I can't, unless it's like a normal name, and I'm not taking a shot at anybody. These underscores, these numbers, I can't do it anymore. As I said, I am used to going to Joe out east and Willie in Connecticut and Billy in Brooklyn and Timmy in Manhattan, 9,000 numbers. And just so what we're going to do is, J-Rod, from now on, if it's and that one's not terrible, but I'll go with B. Kleiner. I'm going to go with that.
You got it right. It's Benji Kleiner.
Okay, there you go. Benji Kleiner. All right, Benj. But if it's one of those wacky ones with numbers and underscores and dashes, J-Rod's going to start reading those, okay? Deal?
Deal.
We got a deal?
Deal.
That a boy. So B, what do we got? Knicks have won 9 of 10. Held teams under 100 6 times in the stretch. Alvarado strengthens the overall D. We're coming out of the East. Okay. I mean, that's pretty brazen the Pistons have kicked the shit out of them every time they play them. I understand that Alvarado has not been there, and now he is. I got it. And I know the Knicks are good, and I know that they got a chance, but, I'm not going there yet. That's not a good matchup, Knicks and Pistons. It's not a good matchup for the Knicks. It was a tricky matchup a year ago. They are tough. They are big. They are well coached. They got a stud guard who can take over series. And by the way, only going to get better and better and better and better in Cunningham. So, Knicks would probably be slightly fit, but they won't have the home court. I don't think. So, SBT, Rod Power, 78. What's your favorite Kenny Powers quote? Oh, my God. I don't really have any quotes. I'm not a big movie quote guy, but I love that show. That was awesome. I remember somebody told it was somebody that I used to work with. It was on HBO. Hey, J-Rod, do me a favor. Eastbound and Down. Check out what year that came out. If I had to take a guess, God, I could be wildly off on this. I feel like it came out. And then then they went to Myrtle Beach in season 3. Got a little weak there. I feel like the first year-ish was around 29, 2010. When did Eastbound and Down surface on HBO? Do you know?
2009 to 2013.
Okay. There was that. Yeah. And I think either Myrtle Beach was the last season or the penultimate season. And I still watched it. I mean, listen, anytime a season, anytime a show jumps the shark and you love that show, he's still going to stick with it. Now you might be like, like even Friends at the end, a little lame there. Even Entourage at the end, not quite as, and I love the show, not quite as good as it was the first bunch. I thought The Sopranos never really jumped the shark. Neither did Oz. Neither did The Wire. I'm thinking of HBO shows there. Did you watch Entourage? Did you ever get into that after it actually came out or no?
No, I haven't seen Entourage. I'm big Sopranos. I know that's next.
Homework.
I know I gotta see Entourage, Wire. But I'm big Sopranos, Breaking Bad. I'm on Curb now. So
Curb.
having some fun with that. Yeah.
Curb's a pisser. Curb is so well written. It's better than Seinfeld, I think.
Agreed.
Seinfeld guy or no?
I've seen decent amount of episodes, but definitely seen more Curb.
Yeah. I just laugh more with Curb.
I like how
mean?
I just like how he plays this character of just like he's the guy who represents us all deep down.
Let's see if anything else jumps out before I start to wrap up. What's this guy say? I don't know. All right, BT, the ultimate question. What's the timeline on when we can start calling in to mix it up with you? That is going to be next level right there when we start taking the calls there. Yeah, no doubt. Sauce 961 Entourage, a magical show from a different era. I mean, the difference, by the way, I'll answer that about the phones. Not that I have a definitive answer. I can give you a ballpark there. So Entourage was really one of the, certainly on HBO. I know that Friends did it, like Bruce Willis, Tom Selleck. You had a lot of guest spots there on Friends, but they were rolling out these cameos, which were wild on Entourage. I could say, like, I don't know that I got into The Sopranos like immediately. My dad's like, you got to watch the show, and eventually I got into it kind of quick. I watched Entourage from day one. Matter of fact, that's how I met. I got to get Jerry on the show, and I definitely will. It was magical, and so I became pretty good friends with Jerry. And the funny thing, Jerry Farrar, a great guy, Brooklyn guy, Bensonhurst, big Knicks fan. You know Jerry, of course. And this is funny. So I'm doing the Knick pre and post and halftime show that was on the radio back in the day. There's like Marbury, Larry Brown, like that crew, right? And the pre and the post game show were also simulcast on TV on MSG. So I'm doing the post game show from the old restaurant play by play. And if you remember that, the old garden, right? Cosby's, take the escalator up there. Nice. They had a little hoop in the back. You could, pop a shot, whatever it was. And it was very, very, great memorabilia everywhere. The only problem was it just was not set up for a TV show. There was no security. So like the drunks that were trying, oh God, it was, and the Knicks were awful. So there was either nobody there or, 9 disgruntled, pissed off Knicks fans who had too many drinks who were trying to infiltrate the show. You want to talk about being on your toes? Wow. And I remember one time, and they would give me some players for sure. But then once the season just got away from, none of the players wanted to come on and get grilled about how much they sucked. So they would say, this model is at the game. You want to have Ron? Sure, we'll have Ron. This actor is at the game. You want him? Sure, we'll have him on. Yeah. I will take anybody. I will take somebody from section 212, row B, seat 17, because I have nothing else to say about the Knicks at this point because they are so wretched. Please give me somebody. And I remember the producer coming up and saying, hey, I don't know if you know about this show yet on HBO, Entourage. I'm like, yeah, I love Entourage. It's awesome. And it was year one. It was the first year. So, J-Rod, some more homework. I might be off on the year again here. I feel like this was, let me see, 04? Can you check the first year of Entourage? Please do that for me as I'm, and just hop in when you have it. I think it was 04, certainly 03, 04, whatever. Like, yeah, I love the show. How do you not, back then in real time, and I was a single guy. If you're a single person,
04,
look at this, 04, nailed it. Thank you. How do you not love Entourage? The music, just these 4 dudes from Queens going out to L.A., going to these parties and doing Lord knows what. It was the best show of all time. I loved it. So anyway, the producer, he says, this guy Jerry's a Brooklyn guy. He's a massive Knicks fan. He's like, I think you guys will hit it off. You want to have him on the show? I'm like, yeah, again, I'll take anybody. I'll take the guy flinging bags of peanuts in the 300s. Just give me somebody, because there's no Nick coming on, that's for sure. So anyway, he comes on and we hit it off, and we became really good friends. And I've had him on my old national show a few times. Like, matter of fact, when Tiki was out, he co-hosted with me a few times. And big Yankee, big Nick guy. And I remember I always joke with him, like whenever he texts something or tweets something about St. John's, which is fairly infrequent, but he will once in a while. There was an episode where his cousin was, and they actually, one of the critiques, they actually wrote it wrong. But I think he was rocking a Felipe Lopez old school or Ron Artest jersey, right? And, Turtle always had the jerseys, like Johnny Damon, Jason Giambi, like that era, all the Knicks stuff, Marbury. And he had a Johnny's jersey on. And he comes back. It's something like, I don't know where the conversation was, but it was something like, my cousin or my boy's an agent for St. John's. He could get you this player. Meanwhile, there are no agents. Like now there are, but it was actually one of the few technical mistakes that I found from a writing point of view in Entourage. So anytime he texts or tweets about the Johnnies, I might pop in. I'm like, hey, how's your cousin doing? Great guy and absolutely great show. But that was, you want to talk about being on an island of misfit toys and just trying to not drown, as I didn't have any security. It was wild. It was so bad. It was so bad. I'm going to save this story for another day because it's a long one. It was so bad that they were putting contestants on the show. Like a halftime, like some guy tries to chip, they give him a little wedge and he tries to chip a little wiffle ball in a hole, at the foul line or at midcourt. They're just giving me anything just to keep the time moving. And I'm like, and I was so young and I didn't really know how to do TV yet. And I enjoyed it. It was a disaster. But then we got to a point, and I'll save this story for another time. This one drunk dude comes on, and I actually thought we were going to get into a fight on the show. It was bad. He was being an ass. And I'm like, all right, you got two choices here. You're going to let this guy play you on MSG, or you're going to let him know it ain't going down. Oh, man. J-Rod, I was holding on for dear life. I mean, no producer, nobody visible, no security, no fans. Team was terrible. No players wanted to come on. Wow. And the funny thing about that, we're going to bring up my buddy Don LaGreca, who is going to be on the show soon. I'll tell you when. And Don, you see, we were both at 1050 at this point, and 1050 at that point was the home of the Knicks and the Rangers, right? I guess they still are doing whatever. I don't even know who's where. And that's when MSG approached my former boss, Tim McCarthy, who's one of the best radio executives and best people of all time. Like, I've had a chance to work for some great people. He's one of them. So is Chris Olivero, despite what happened. I love Chris. Gentleman, good man, great radio person. So was McCarthy. Anyway, they approach McCarthy and they say, hey, we want to do something where we want to simulcast. We want to do something with the Knicks and something with the Rangers. And they identify LaGreca, obviously, to do the Rangers, who's now doing the Devils, which is awesome because he's a Devils fan. And they wanted me to do the Knicks stuff. Anyway, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh, it's going to mean a few more bucks and more visibility. And I'm like, this is going to be fantastic. I'm all in. The funny thing was, the Rangers season starts first, and it was only for home games. And I don't even think it was on the weekend. I think it was just during the week, if I recollect correctly. So I'm sitting in my apartment, and LaGreca is going on first. And I just remember saying, thank God he's the guinea pig, because that was a shit show. You had, like, it wasn't a TV studio. So there's just people, it was the bar. So people wandering by, paper flying across the room. When you do TV and there's all these cameras and these lights on you, you generally want the studio to be a little colder. Otherwise, you sweat. And they didn't have that. And you're just getting banged with these lights. Ay. And I just remember sitting there on my couch. I'm like, thank God it's him. And thank God he's going first and not me, because he did fine. He did well. He's a talented guy. He's a great guy. I'm looking forward to having Don on. But man, oh man, think about it. That's 23 years ago. My God. So anyway, That'll just about wrap it up. J-Rod, did I miss anything today, buddy? Anything?
I'm not seeing anything. I mean, hit Super Bowl, hit Knicks, hit St. John's.
Yep.
I think we got it all. Hit the Yanks a little bit, hit the Mets 1 through 9. We're looking good.
Hey, we are looking pretty good. That little Met thing was fun. I like this. This is always a fun question. Let me hit this up. Hey, you owe us an answer on. Oh, that was the question. Well, I didn't think about it much. You owe us an answer as to who was your most enjoyable, informative athlete that I've ever interviewed. Listen, it's a long list, and I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I've been very lucky to interview, I mean, just almost everybody that I've ever wanted to, or, many of the luminaries, Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. I would love to talk to Tiger Woods if he's going to really be open. I think that would be, which he won't be. I think that would be fascinating. I'd love to sit down and, for an hour, kick it with Phil Mickelson, who would be open. I don't know if this is my answer, but Jack Nicklaus was one that jumped out as just when I just really started getting into golf. I remember this is probably about, I was probably playing golf for a couple of years, 2002, 2003, something like that. The great Jack Nicklaus, getting a chance to have Alex Rodriguez on for a few times. That's been really good. Listen, to me, when I look at interviews, to me, I don't think the right word is an interview. I mean, everybody says it. To me, it's a conversation, because I think the art of, and I'll say it now, of interviewing somebody is getting them to be comfortable enough to be able to open up and have a conversation. Because when you're sitting there just conversing with somebody, generally that's when the guard goes down, and generally that's when you get your best stuff. And I take a lot of pride in that. And, I remember I told you guys the story with Herm Edwards back in the day. And I've obviously evolved from this, but when you're a young broadcaster and you get somebody on the show, you're like, I got to get the answer. I got to get some juice. I got to make some headlines. I got to make it a little combative. And you go in there with this predisposed notion of how to do a show or how to do that conversation, and you learn from it. You make some mistakes along the way, which I certainly did. But if you just go right for that hit piece, the guy or the gal, the subject that you're interviewing and talking to, automatically guard goes up. Guard goes up. And once the guard goes up, you're not allowing yourself to relax. And when you're not relaxed, you're generally not, basically the art of the interview is making somebody feel as if they're not getting interviewed. Just having a conversation. And it's not being, distributed on the radio and all the other platforms, obviously this and on podcasts, for the entire world to disseminate what you just said. It's not, we're just talking shop. We're having a conversation. And that is one thing. I'm going to wrap it up with this. I am really, among many things, really looking forward to doing with this channel. I think that's going to be great. And my objective here, because I'm going to obviously go live every day, just do the show and react to what I want to react to what's pertinent, react to what's hot. But I very rarely will do an interview in this slot. What I'm going to do is I'm probably going to record them, because I'm going to have to work around some schedules, right? And I'm going to drop it as different content. And, it's going to be about an hour. And I already told you, I've already reached out. I've got a whole list here. One of the things on the legal pad is all these people that I'm targeting, many of whom have already said yes. We're going to sit down. I'm going to sit down with Stephen A. And I'm going to say, hey, pour yourself a glass of wine, dude. I'm doing the same thing, or I'm pouring a little scotch, and we're going to just shoot the breeze. Let's go. Michael K., same thing. Don LaGreca, same thing. Alex, same thing. Booney, same thing. Rick Pitino, same thing. So it's I can't wait for that. I had Sal on. That was a blast. We had a lot of fun. And once the studio was done, and I know it seems like a broken record, but it's printed and it's going to be set up either Thursday or Friday. Now you'll start to see a new wave of content that will not be live, that I will record, so I can work around all these schedules. And listen, it mightn't be somebody like, I don't want to just start throwing names out without getting them to consent to come on the show here, but, somebody from MLB Network that I think I'll throw this name out there, like DeRosa. I just want to get him on and talk hitting, talk shop, and go through, guys in New York, go through Volpe's swing, go through Brett Beatty's swing, go through some of the younger players, and go through some of and let him tell us what he's seeing, and just shoot the breeze. And I think it's going to be awesome. I think you guys are really going to enjoy that. And that's coming really soon. So with that being said, hey, make sure you guys like this. Make sure you guys subscribe this. Make sure you guys get that traction going out there digitally. The more you do that, the more I can do, the more subs we get. You know the deal. We're knocking on the door of 16,000. We may already be there. And my target for the end of February, we got to get going on this, is 20. And then from 20, want to get to 25 and just keep going and keep going and keep going. So, again, Super Bowl is over. Baseball season is here. I'm happy for Sam Darnold. McDonald's a hell of a young coach. So is Vrabel. Drake May is going to be around for a long time. Got to respect the Pats, even though they didn't play well last night. You know, the commercials, the bunny, the turning point, you know, watch what you want, do what you do, and hopefully you enjoyed it. But it was an awful game. It really was. It just languished on. And now that it's over, we move to the other stuff. And the other stuff is obviously the start of the baseball season, the continuation of St. John's, eventually March Madness. Not just St. John's, March Madness. Obviously, the NFL draft is going to be huge in terms of guests and content on the show. So I appreciate you guys. Good luck to St. John's tonight, playing against Xavier at the Garden, 6:30 tip. Like DePaul, just don't stumble. You don't got to beat them by 20. Just beat them. Just keep the train moving. And J-Rod, hold me to it. I'm going to say 15 or 16. That's where St. John's will be ranked when it comes out in about an hour. That's when the AP poll is going to drop. So enjoy the rest of your Monday. Again, like it, subscribe it, get it out there, hype it up, all the stuff that you guys do. I appreciate you. You know that. Have an awesome Monday. See you tomorrow at 10 right here on Unleashed.
This is Unleash. Are you listening? Can you hear me? This is Unleash. Are you listening? Can you hear me?
With your host, Brandon Tierney.
This is Unleash. Are you listening? Can you hear me?